Welcome to Community Updates. I'm Victoria Strait.
And I'm Emmanuel Ortiz. Do you have a senior that is graduating this year? You can have LCCT air your grad's announcement by sending us the name and photo of your senior, the school they're graduating from, and a short message from you to them at access@lctv.us. Announcements will run on Comcast channels 8 and 99.
Speaking of graduation, order forms are available for keepsake DVDs and digital copies of the Neshoba High School ceremony. Visit boltonaccess.tv to order online or download the paper form to pay by check. You can also give your order form to one of the videographers on the day of graduation. On June 24th at 10:30 a.m., Conant Public Library will be having their Youth Summer Reading Kickoff at Memorial Park. Animal Adventures is going to help celebrate the kickoff with an animal meet and greet. This event, sponsored by the Friends of Conant Public Library, is open to all ages and no registration is required. The library is also collecting donations from community members and businesses of new toys, craft kits, gift cards, games, and baby toys to be awarded as prizes in their Youth Summer Reading program. You can drop off those donations during the library's open hours. The Sterling Senior Center will be hosting their Father's Day Grab and Go on June 23rd at 11 a.m. Sterling seniors can reserve their plate of pulled pork and coleslaw by calling 978-422-3032. The Board of Public Works has put new restrictions on lawn watering in Sterling. Effective immediately, public water users will only be allowed to water their lawn once per week between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. on the day their trash is normally collected. These restrictions are necessary for fire protection and to ensure that sufficient water is available to all users. Please call the DPW with questions at 978-422-6767.
On Saturday, June 19th at 10:30 a.m., Seven Bridge Writing Collaborative will be hosting a workshop, Writing People, How Characterization Works in Fiction, taught by David Daniel. The program, supported in part by a grant from the Littleton Cultural Council, will include discussions of character functions, constructing characters, and building the characters into your story. Participants are encouraged to bring along a piece of their writing that introduces a character. To register for this event, please visit sevenbridge.org. The Day Memorial Summer Reading Kickoff will be on Wednesday, June 23rd. You can shop for books, DVDs, and other materials for ages 0 to 18 at the youth book sale from 3 to 7 p.m. And at 6:30, Mike Piazza and his Border Collies will perform entertaining tricks on the town green. If you have any questions, please call Thayer Memorial Library at 978-368-8928. The town beach will be open officially on June 26 with lifeguards in attendance. Sign-ups for beach passes are available on the town website ca.lancaster.ma.us under the recreation page. You can also pay in person at the beach. If you have any questions, please contact ashepard@lancaster.net. And now let's head over to Lex Thomas, who is talking with Kellie Hebert, the Sterling Town Administrator, about the upcoming town meeting and election.
Thank you, Victoria and Emmanuel. We are right upon the annual town meeting here in Sterling. I am delighted to have with me today our town administrator, Kellie Hebert, who has been working tirelessly with our boards, committees, and with town staff to come up with a warrant that is available for our viewers to see and consider. And so we're going to talk about all these things. So first of all, Kellie, thank you so much for joining me. I know this has been a hectic time for you, and I appreciate the time that you spend with me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So first of all, let's just talk some logistics. Tell me where and when the annual town meeting is and how people can get in and how to become involved.
Sure. Our town meeting will be Monday, June 14th at the airport, like last year, due to the COVID-19 safety protocols and the governor's emergency order. So we'll be having it for the second year in a row at the airport, as opposed to the gymnasium where it typically would be.
And that's the Sterling Municipal Airport.
Sterling Municipal Airport. It'll be at 5:30 is when we will start. However, our gates will open at approximately 4:30. We'll be using, people will be asked to stay in their vehicles. However, we'll have, you know, places where people can leave their vehicles to come up to a microphone and to speak, to ask questions. We'll also have some runners to get to folks who may have questions. The best way to get into the venue is through the I-190 entrance at the airport. The gates will open around 4:30. People will check in. They will receive a clicker, the clicker that they had last year. Sound like that went really well. We actually got another 100 this year. So everything will be in sealed bags. Everyone will get a copy of the materials that way. However, we do have the warrant available. We'll be distributing that ahead of time. We'll also have it on the website so that people will have some time between now and the 14th to review all the articles.
Now, for folks that either didn't attend the annual town meeting last year or who are new to town, tell me about this clicker. How does this work? This is an electronic method for tabulating votes. Is that correct?
Exactly. And honestly, this will be my first time using it as well. There have been a number of towns that I have worked in that are now using them, but it's an electronic device and you can indicate your vote with that, and it does speed things up, that's for sure. There's nothing worse than sitting in a hot, room or gymnasium and having those cards flashing and all of the, town clerk assistants going around and counting everyone. It does take a lot of the, it does take a lot of the time and effort out of the voting process. So, and it is anonymous, so everybody will have one in their car. They'll be tuning their radio on for the meeting so that they can hear everything. So I think having last year, we'll call that our test run, but we're hoping that this year, God willing, everything will run smoothly and that everybody will be socially distanced. We are asking people, similar to the protocols, if they haven't been vaccinated, use a mask. If you are not comfortable not being, wearing or not wearing a mask, please do that as well. But we will be following social distancing guidelines just to be on the safest side possible, in accordance with the state of emergency that will actually be coming to an end the day after our town meeting.
Right. Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about the warrant. This is a fairly lengthy warrant. There are 55 or 50 items or 55 items. Tell me about how the process has evolved of coming up with this.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, rightly so, will look at that and say that's a lot of items for our agenda for town meeting. And they are correct. What you're seeing with this year's warrant is really the trickle-down effect from a year ago. So a year ago, they condensed the warrant. They took off articles that they felt weren't time sensitive. Not only that, but we could have had a fall town meeting. Decided not to do that based on the public health emergency. So there is a number of articles on here that are sort of carried over from last year and from the fall. We have an entire consent agenda. We have two this year, but one entire consent agenda basically is made up of a lot of what we would consider housekeeping articles from our zoning bylaws or our protective bylaws. So there is a big group of articles right in the middle of the warrant that all have an asterisk next to them, and that is part of our second grouping of consent agenda items. And those are really reviews of the zoning bylaw. We're updating that and we're giving it a really good scrub so that as we move forward, we can be putting the town in the best light and opening ourselves up to other opportunities with respect to economic development and also just the development of our downtown, the town common. So there's a lot of what we would consider housekeeping, although to most people at home, they might not understand what went into getting some small, tiny changes into the zoning bylaw. lots of steps required by state law. So we're putting those all together, if you will, in a consent agenda so that we can hopefully get through a lot of those housekeeping items,
Right.
during.
I was going to ask you about the purpose of the consent agenda. So that means that that group will all be voted on in one vote rather than individually. Is that what it means?
Well, that's the idea. However, we want people to understand that they're grouped together for efficiency and for effectiveness as well. However, if people have questions about a particular item or there is any, if people have questions, we welcome those questions ahead of time to clarify things ahead of time if we can. But certainly the night of town meeting, the idea is that in the first consent agenda, we'll have 7 items. These are very common, reoccurring things that happen every year, setting the compensation of our elected officials. Nothing has changed there. There's some appropriations, there's our snow and ice deficit. Those are all grouped together so that if nobody has any questions about them, they can be voted all together as one item. And so therefore, in the amount of time it might have taken to get through 8 articles, now we've done 1. Somebody has a question, the moderator will make sure that, that people can call out questions that they want to discuss or have a question about. So certainly that is an option, but we also welcome any questions that people have about the warrant. It'll be on the website. If they have questions, I would encourage them to reach out to us, send us an email with the question. We'd like to answer as many questions as possible leading up to that event.
That sounds great. Now, one of the things that I noticed in perusing the warrant is that really economic development is a major theme here. And one of the things that this made me really think about is that, of course, this past pandemic year has been really so difficult, not only for individuals and families and for businesses, but for municipalities. And there's just so much that just ground to a total halt. So what I'm seeing here is a real effort to just re-energize things and get things back on track. It seems to me that you and the boards and the staff are very, very conscious of that and are really looking at that.
Absolutely. I think in the town, as in the world, I mean, this has been an opportunity for transition. It's been a huge challenge, but also presented a lot of opportunities, a lot of new ways of getting things done, new ways of looking at the issues we're dealing with. And also just from our perspective, I mean, we have, the town only a couple of years ago voted on a new town planner. That town planner has been terrific in coming up with some ways that some small, some large, like some, great grants that we've been able to get. But she's been great at looking through our bylaws and saying, this doesn't work because of this reason. We should update that. And remember, we only have one time a year for the annual town meeting to make those changes, right? So, as you come across these issues during the year, you can't just stop and fix it and move on. You spend a whole year waiting for the opportunity to go to town meeting to have them vote on these things. So she's gone through, and she, meaning herself as staff, but also the members of those committees and the boards, the zoning board of appeals, the members of the planning board, the select board, all of these committees are doing their part. They are trying to look at projects in a new light. We're trying to see areas where there might be gaps. We also see areas where there might be opportunity. There are a lot of changes or ideas in this warrant that some people may stop and say, well, that's not the way we've done it before. Why should we change? But we're looking at many of the things in this warrant as an opportunity to refine what works, to update it for those gaps, but also to open ourselves up for the great opportunities that might be right around the corner with respect to applying for grants, getting new grants, allowing us to be a destination location for future business. So we've really looked at, we meaning, I've only been here for 6 months, we meaning the town and all of the volunteers, are looking at, what do we currently have? Where do we feel confined? Where do we need a little bit more elbow room? Where do we want to, um, where do we need to secure the town's ability and flexibility to grow where it's possible, but also to retain the character of the town in a way that that everyone can agree to. One example I could think of is the town common. I've heard of the plans that have been in the works, for a long time for the town common, and for one reason or another, most recently the pandemic, things were sort of getting going again, and then all of a sudden they came to a screeching halt. So there's one article on here where we are really trying to get resources in place to identify what does the community want from its town common, how can we work together to get there, and to make it a place where people want to go to, where they want to be, whether it's to go to the store, the 1835, or a coffee shop. We are trying to figure out ways that we can attract more people into Sterling who might otherwise just keep driving through. So we're looking at a bigger vision, and a lot of the things in this warrant will help us to get there.
Sure. And of course, the thing with the annual town meeting, and one of the purposes of it, aside from the fact that it is a legal requirement, is that it gives the residents of the town, the townspeople, an opportunity to consider and vote on things that are going to have impact in the town over the future years. And so the warrant is available online on the town website. Do you recommend that people take a look at this before they arrive, and to show up with their own copy of the warrant?
Oh, absolutely. 55 warrant articles, even if they were all very simple and didn't require any debate, that's a lot of information for anyone to consume in one evening, much less to get there not having looked at it. What's behind the scenes of all this, and I think that a lot of people might overlook that or not think about this, is that what's gone into this one document is the work and time and effort of so many people, and not just the staff of the town, but of the volunteers and the people who volunteer their time to come to this building or have sat in on Zoom meetings, the finance committee, the capital budget committee, the select board, the zoning board of appeals, the planning board, all of our staff, the number of meetings that have had to happen to get to this point is really incredible, and I could never start to quantify that. But really, I think at the point where you get to this point where you have the warrant, the hard part is done. The easy part is putting it on paper and getting people to talk about it and to make a decision for the town. But there's so much that goes into it, and it would be a shame that anybody would go to the meeting without previewing any of these articles. There's some really exciting stuff in there as well, I gotta say. I'm really thoroughly impressed with the town's caliber of its staff and its volunteers, and that's really made my first 6 months of tenure here. Just, despite all of the, some of the chaos with the pandemic and other issues, you've got some fantastic people working here and volunteering here, and I think it shows with this warrant and the amount of work that they are willing to put forward to get us to the next level, to the next step. There are some things in there that quite honestly I said, we really need to do this. It's in the best interests of the town. I got some, oh, it's too much too fast, and I get that, and we work through a lot of those issues, but for the most part, this represents a really good step in the town, and I'm really proud of all the people I've had to be able to work with during
That's
this.
fantastic to hear you say that. Kellie, that sounds marvelous. So Sterling's annual town meeting, Monday, June 14th at the Sterling Airport, 5:30 p.m. start. 4:30 p.m. is when the gates will open. So just drive on in, make sure you print out your warrant beforehand, take a look at it, consider the items, really think about how you want to vote about this, because how the town develops is really in the hands and the decision of the townsfolk. Kellie, as always, a pleasure to chat with you, and I look forward to the annual town meeting, and we'll talk again soon.
Great, thank you so much. And if people need a copy of the printed warrant, we'll have them at the library at Town Hall, which is reopening on Monday.
Oh,
And we'll
marvelous.
have them at the police station, the fire station. So
Okay, so town hall is reopening on Monday.
on Monday,
Wonderful.
yes,
Oh,
you heard it here first.
excellent. All right. Well, our late breaking news here. Thank you so much, Kellie.
Thank
And
you, thank you.
all right, and back to you, Victoria and Emmanuel.
On my bookshelf this week is A Million Miles from Boston by Karen Day. This is the perfect summer read for kids about to be heading into middle school. Changes can be daunting, and Lucy feels the same way as she enters summer vacation. School isn't the only thing changing, though. Lucy's father is dating someone new and wants Lucy to allow her in their life. At their vacation spot in Pearson Point, Maine, new people are moving into the community, including Ian, a popular and mean boy from Lucy's school. This book shows you that not all changes are bad, and you may even find some friendships in some places that you thought were impossible. It's about being presented with change and learning to accept it and make the best out of each situation. I was lucky enough to find a signed copy at the Friends of Thayer Memorial Library's book sale, but you could find your copy at your local library or bookstore.
This year, Massachusetts will honor Juneteenth as a state holiday for the first time. Last year, Governor Baker signed the measure in July 2020. He said making June 19 an annual state holiday will help recognize the continued need to ensure racial freedom and equality. For those of you who are hearing about this for the first time, Juneteenth is a holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. It is also called Emancipation Day or Juneteenth Independence Day. The name Juneteenth references the date of the holiday, combining the words June and 19th. And that's all we have time for.
We'll see you next time on Community Updates.